In this lesson, we're going to cover setup of the Barco projectors with the madVR Envy. Let's get right into it. First thing is we're going to look at the resolution setting in the Envy. If you're not using a scope screen, set the resolution to 3840 by 2160 and you can move right on to the next step. If you are using a scope screen with any of the Barco DCI projectors, so the Freya, Freya Plus, Nerthus, and so forth, set the resolution to 4096 by 2160. If you're using a Barco CinemaScope model, like the Nord CinemaScope, consider running at 5K resolution from the Envy. That's 5120 by 2160. We'll touch on that in a moment in the advanced settings in this document. Otherwise, set it to 3840 by 2160. For the peak luminance, set this aside. We'll cover that in an upcoming lesson. Now, using the Barco Projector interface, go to Image Settings and set the following as you see here. Brightness 0, Contrast 1, Saturation 1, Gamma Type Power with a value of 2.4. Sharpness to 0, Brilliant Color, if it's available, set it to off. Next, we need to set some important values in the Envy display configuration menu. First, if you're not going to use a 3D LUT, you must set the Envy transfer function to a value of 2.4 to match what we just set in the previous example here. If your Barco projector supports a gamut up to DCI P3, such as a Bragi, Loki, Nord, then you want to set the gamut in the Envy to DCI P3. If you're using a DCI model, such as Freya, Nerthus, which has a gamut coverage for BT 2020, set the gamut in the Envy to BT 2020. Or if your projector does not support DCI P3 or BT 2020, set this to BT 709. If you're not using a 3D LUT, select Input Connectors HDMI and change the color primaries shown there from auto to the gamut value you just set in the previous step. For instance, you'll be selecting DCI P3, D65, or BT 2020, whichever one of those values you just selected in the previous step. Shown below is an example for the Nord, which uses DCI P3. You can see that setting right in here. If your projector supports DCI P3 or BT 2020 and you're not using a 3D LUT, select Image Real Color P7 and set the mode to HDR as shown here. Now, only if using a scope screen, you want to follow these steps to set up the Envy screen aspect ratio control. First, go to Image Cropping and set cropping to 237 regardless of your screen's aspect ratio. Under Image Scaling, make sure that's set to Fill. Now you're going to play any 2.40 aspect ratio content and change the Barco lens zoom so that the image perfectly fills your screen left to right. Then we'll dial this in a later lesson when we talk about setting screen boundaries. Now, for improved color accuracy, it's recommended to perform an internal calibration of the projector's native color space. You do that through the Service Native Real Color P7 setting. You have to be logged in as the Barco power user and follow the procedures as set forth by Barco. For the most accurate color, grayscale, and gamma tracking, we do recommend performing a 1D and 3D LUT. If you do so, you'll skip step 3 because Envy ignores those settings when a 3D LUT is active. Now, if a calibration is going to be performed, make sure you do so with the projector outputting 24 Hz or 60 Hz. 48 Hz is not a good resolution to use during calibration. After setup is complete, you can take advantage of two unique features that the Envy has when used with Barco displays. So, for CinemaScope displays, you can output 5K, which is 5120 by 2160. That's only for Barco CinemaScope models. You can also use the Envy's Motion AI feature available in the Envy Extreme to output 48 Hz to the Barco units. That's really spectacular and something we recommend. You can run Motion AI at 60 Hz with the Barco displays, but 48 will provide even better results. So, to enable support for 5120 by 2160 and or 48 Hz support, you need to make some changes in the Envy's HDMI configuration page. To do that, you're going to select the EDIT override under HDMI output, From within this menu, you'll select Barco CinemaScope if you're using a CinemaScope model Barco, or Barco 4K if the display is a non-CinemaScope model. The Barco CinemaScope will enable the 5K and 48 Hz support, and the Barco 4K will enable the 48 Hz support. You can see what these settings look like here. After you make these changes, you must save them in the MV menu and then restart the MV. These settings will not take effect until the MV is restarted. Now, Motion AI can dramatically improve the image on all displays by reducing motion blur and judder and still keeping it cinematic. If you want to enable Motion AI, you can follow these steps as outlined here to get that set up. Now, for a final quick sanity check, please follow these steps. 1. Use the Barco Projector or the remote. Make sure the projector shows the same resolution that's incoming to the projector as was selected in step A in the first step at the beginning of this document. They should match up. If for some reason it shows 1024 by 768, double check your setting at the top of this document. Then play any 4K HDR content except for the couple movies you show here. You want to check that the incoming signal shows a frame rate of 23976. If it shows 5994 and you're using an Apple TV or a Kaleidoscope or some other source, then your source device is not set up as we covered in a previous lesson. Those should be outputting 23976. When playing a 4K HDR movie, check that the transfer function on the MV incoming signal shows HDR. If not, MV is not getting an HDR signal from the source player. You can look in this document for more information. While in the MV incoming signal menu, you can press the right arrow to go one further to the outgoing signal information. Now, if you're not using Motion AI, make sure that the frame rate shown on the outgoing signal information matches the same frame rate that's on the incoming signal information. If Motion AI is being used, the frame rate should show 48 Hz if you chose that option, or otherwise 60 Hz. On the outgoing signal information menu, make sure that the outgoing transfer function shows SDR, even if it's an HDR signal. Don't worry, the MV is still delivering HDR content. Lastly, if the colors look undersaturated, if you're not using a 3D LUT and using a projector that supports DCI P3 or BT 2020, make sure that the colorimetry shown in the MV outgoing signal menu matches the gamut value that was used in step 3B, such as DCI P3 or BT 2020, and match that up with what we did in step 4 in this document. If they don't, please revisit those steps. If you're using a projector that does not support DCI P3 or BT 2020, then the colorimetry should instead show BT 709. Well, that's a wrap for this lesson. Let's move on to the next one.